they weren't faking it. They were actually drinking and driving in Mexico. And then the car explodes in a stunt. What's up, guys? My name is Levi and this is Shred Shop, connecting you to skateboarding. And guess what? Today we're doing 14 things you didn't know about blind skateboards. We're going to cover the start and the early days in blind, where the Reaper logo came from, all the way up to what blind is up to today. If you guys like the content that we're putting out, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. It is the best way to support us so we can give you the content that you like. And if you want to stick around till the end, we're going to give you our favorite point and our comment of the week. Mark Gonzales. Mark Gonzales is one of the forefathers of skateboarding. He invented a lot of the early tricks as well. He was one of the main guys that brought freestyle skateboarding to the streets. Mark and Natus were the two first skaters to actually skateboard on handrails. As well, Transworld Skateboard Magazine voted Mark Gonzales as #1 on their top 100 most influential skateboarders. After leading the street revolution, he goes pro for Vision Skateboards. He's pro for Adidas Skateboarding, and he has been for so many years. As well, he's become a world-renowned artist. He has art that is so famous that even people like P. Diddy and Donald Trump own pieces from Mark Gonzales. World Industries. Steve Rocco is pro for Vision Skateboards. He has a falling out with the owner Brad Dorfman, and then he goes on to start World Industries. Brad Dorfman actually told Steve Rocco that street skateboarding was super dumb. It was never going to be a thing and that he was wasting his time. This makes Dorfman enemy #1 for Steve Rocco. If you want to know more about this point, hit the link below. We have a 14 things you didn't know about World Industries. Since none of the other brands really cared about street skateboarding at the time, it was only World Industries and Steve Rocco that did, they were able to build a stacked team. They gathered all the best street skateboarders from around the world and put them all on World Industries. At the time, that included people like Jason Lee, Jeremy Klien, Ron Chatman, Daewon Song, Shiloh Greathouse, Jovontea Turner, and finally in 1989, Steve Rocco approaches Mark Gonzales about quitting Vision Skateboards. He does, and then they found Blind Skateboards underneath the World Industries umbrella. The name. Since Brad Dorfman and Vision Skateboards was enemy #1 for them, they wanted to go complete opposite direction, throw shade at these guys, and they went the opposite of Vision. They called their company Blind. The logo. The original Blind logo was sketched out by Mark Gonzales. And if you look really early on at some of the first logos and graphics, they were sketched out by him as well. As you guys know, Mark Gonzales owns Krooked Skateboards. And so if you look at the early graphics from Blind Skateboards, it kind of has a crooked feel to it. If you look back at these early on graphics, it's actually cool to see and compare Mark Gonzales' art then and now, and how it's transitioned and grown and shifted over the years. It's interesting to note that the Blind Reaper logo didn't come to fruition for many years. It wasn't until 1996 that was drawn up and dreamt up by Mark McKee. At that time, they were going through some major shifts. A lot of people were leaving the brand, and so they decided they were going to reinvent themselves a little bit. So they got rid of the early logos of Blind and started bringing and introducing in the Reaper logo. The OG team. When Blind started, Steve Rocco and Mark Gonzales had a conversation, and Rocco actually decided, hey, I'm going to let you take Jason Lee from World Industries over to Blind. As well, they added to the team Jordan Richter, Rudy Johnson, and Jason Lee. Powell versus Blind. There was serious beef between the two brands, as Blind had just stolen two of Powell's biggest AMs, Rudy Johnson and Guy Mariano. In 1991, Powell and Peralta release an ad making fun of small board brands. It includes Lance Mountain, Tony Hawk, and Ray Barbie. Rocco loses his mind when he sees these ads come out. But he spots kind of a David versus Goliath opportunity, and he starts to plan his attack and reaction against them. It actually gives Blind an opportunity to position and paint a picture that Powell and Peralta is big and corporate, and Blind is cool and local and organic. So their plan of attack is to release these board graphics, a board series where it's the famous VCJ board series, and each one is making fun of a different Powell and Peralta team rider. The Mark Gonzales board is a skull and banana versus a skull and sword. The Jason Lee board is a dodo bird instead of a hawk for Tony Hawk. And the Rudy Johnson board is a jock helmet instead of a Viking helmet. They released these boards in an ad along with a letter that's called Dear George for Dear George Powell. And it basically is a satirical writing talking about how lame small board companies are. Interesting to note, the dodo bird board was actually meant to be Danny Way's board. But at the time, there was this huge rivalry between Tony Hawk and Danny Way, and they didn't want to blow things up. So they decided to give that one to Jason Lee. Soon after this, Powell retaliated and put out a board graphic. He was the Powell Ripper, but he had the blind glasses on with a white cane, and he was begging for change, and it was ripping on blind skateboards. This wasn't the last time that Blind messed with Powell. Later on, Blind found out that Powell was going to put out a Claudia Schiffer board for Adam McNatt, so they went to their artist, Sean Cliver, to draw up a better version of that same board, and they released it 6 months earlier than Powell could. Sean tells this story, among others, in his book, Disposable, A History of Skateboard Art, Volume 1, Video Days. In 1989, Steve Rocco gives his credit card to one of the employees and it says, go buy a video camera and start making a movie. That employee's name was Spike Jonze, and he released World Industries' Rubbish Heap. Not long after this, Spike joins Gonz and Jason Lee and the rest of the crew, and they start working on a video for Blind. In 1991, they released the iconic video, Blind Video Days. At the time, they would all go stay at Mark Gonzales' house in Huntington Beach, and they would go out and film like crazy. This video absolutely exploded Mark Gonzales, Jason Lee, and Guy Mariano. It put them on the map. It's actually crazy because Mark Gonzales goes to a show. He gives Blind Video Days to this singer, Kim Gordon. She's from a famous band called Sonic Youth. She then goes and tracks down Spike Jonze and says, I need you to make a music video for me. And that's what started his movie making career. It's interesting and maybe a little shameful to note that in the scene in Blind Video Days where they're drinking and driving, they weren't faking it. They were actually drinking and driving in Mexico. And then the car explodes in a stunt. Tim and Henry's Pack of Lies. After the success of Blind Video Days, they instantly went back and they started working and coming up with an idea for the next video. They come to the table and decide they're going to film crazy video parts. They all go out and film. They come back, bring all the footage together, and they watch it, and they realize that Tim Gavin and Henry Sanchez are the only two people that have any noteworthy footage. So then it just becomes an 8-minute video called Tim and Henry's Pack of Lies. Jason Lee, Devil Worship. The artist at the time, Mark McKee, designs a really evil-looking board, a devil-worshipping board, and he puts Jason Lee's name on it. When Jason Lee comes in, he sees this board, and he says, I don't want this board, I don't want my name on it, I don't want to upset anyone. Steve Rocco is actually pushing and pressuring Jason Lee, put out the board, it's funny, make sure you put your name on it, do it. Meanwhile, Mark Gonzales is actually telling him, dude, don't put your name on that, don't put that board out. If you do, really bad stuff is going to happen. Jason Lee left. A few days later, he comes back into the office. Steve Rocco approaches him and hands him a check for $10,000. He says, listen, if you put your name on this board, if we put it out, I will give you 10 grand before we even put the board out. Jason said that was a huge check to him at that time, a ton of money. So he decides to take it. He goes home, he phones Mark Gonzales. Mark convinces him, listen, it's still a bad idea. He decides to side with Mark. He drives all the way back to Blind and hands Steve Rocco the check. Rocco was pretty pissed that he didn't get his way. But ultimately, the graphic got used. It got moved from Blind over to One-on-One Skateboards, and it had Natis's name put on it, and it's the Natis devil worshipping board that we see today. Mark McKee. Mark McKee is one of the most legendary skateboard artists of all time. And so he actually was the artist who created the brand and the identity for Blind and World Industries. Some of his famous Blind boards that he put out were the Jason Lee American Icon, the Guy Mariano Accidental Gun Death, Henry Sanchez Beauty and the Beast. There's a series called F'd Up Blind Kids, the Dear George series, and the Jason Lee Burger Graphic. It's interesting to know with the Jason Lee Burger Graphic, it actually got him in some hot water with Mike V at the time. So Mike V actually quit World Industries. And right after that, they put out this graphic. It was Jason Lee standing in front of Burger King with a shaved bicked head, and he kind of looked like Mike V at the time. So it was kind of clowning Mike V. And Jason Lee was eating a big juicy hamburger. And Mike V was a vegan at the time, so they kind of were screwing with him, making fun of him. Later on, Mark McKee would actually design the Chris Markovich supersize graphic, as well as the North Park series, which is kind of a spin-off or a playoff of South Park. Blind jeans. In the mid-90s, when Blind was blowing up as the biggest skateboard company on earth, they decided to release the baggiest pants on earth. They're basically their own version of Janko jeans. They are ridiculously wide fit. And in the 90s, there was kind of a uniform that a lot of skaters wore, just like today there's a uniform. And at that time, it was a pair of these jeans and a white tee. At one point, they were selling over $1 million worth of these jeans every single year. The end of Blind. At the end of 1993, Guy Mariano, Rudy Johnson, Tim Gavin, and Jerron Wilson all decided to leave Blind Skateboards. At that time, Jason Lee also decides to jump ship, and he starts Stereo Skateboards with Chris Pastras. And lastly, Mark Gonzales decides to leave as he has disagreements with Steve Rocco. Around this time is when they decide to rebrand the team and kind of rework the company, and the Reaper comes in. The second phase. After everyone leaves, including one of the founders of Blind Skateboards, Mark Gonzales, they change ownership, they kind of have a rebuilding of the brand, as well as a rebuilding of the team. And then in 2005, they come out with their second full-length video called What If? What If features Corey Shepard, Jake Duncombe, Grant Patterson, Chris Markovich, Carlos Ruiz, James Craig, Ronnie Krieger, and more. Over the years, they've also released videos such as the Blind video, This Is Not a Test, Damn, and X2 Vision or X2 Vision. It's also cool to note that they were one of the brands that actually jumped early on onto the YouTube kind of thing, and they used to do Sundays in the Park with Blind and other videos like that. They've also added a few other big names to the team over the years, like Morgan Smith, Kevin Romar, Yuto Horigami, and Josh Casper. The modern Blind team consists of TJ Rogers, Cody McIntyre, Jordan Maxim, Kevin Romar, Nassim Leclaub, Sora Shirai, Jason Thurtle, and of course our Canadian friend Mickey Papa. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go out there and support your local skate shops. That means avoid the malls and the big box stores. Local shops are keeping skateboarding alive. This is Levi from Shred Shop connecting you to skateboarding, and you just watched 14 things you didn't know about Blind Skateboards. Now stay tuned for comment of the week. Guys, it's a spicy one. Spicy to the tongue, spicy to the touch. This one is from our friend, best friend, Somesh Gupta. He says, Super Skytop is the best sneakers. Vans is a crap, a deep crap. Supra is the best. The owner says, are you Lil Wayne? Somesh Gupta replies, I am a big fan of Lil Wayne and he was fond of Supra sneakers like the way I am fond of Super Skytop. Alright, Super Skytops is the best and Chad Muska, now in caps, and Chad Muska is the best, understand. Supra is Supra, Vans is a crap. Don't make me angry, Vans is a crap. Somesh Gupta, you're the man. We admit it. It's all crap. You're the man. All right? Thanks so much for watching, guys. You guys are killer. Somesh, comment some more. Everyone else, let us know where you're watching from and tell us why you think some stuff is crap. Peace.